Good morning. Good morning, everybody. Good morning. Blessings in the name of the Most High. We're glad you're all able to join us this morning for Scripture and Eggs. Welcome to some of our earliest episodes of Scripture and Eggs. I am here this morning because I want to continue in the theme that we started yesterday called Let Us Be Wise. And we were talking about wisdom as it relates to our confrontations with law enforcement as black people. It is evident, and has been for many decades, that when, as a black person, particularly if you are a young black male, or if you're an old black male, and even if you're a woman, but if you are black, and particularly a black male, and you have a confrontation with the police, that encounter has the potential to be unnecessarily deadly. So, what we have to do is we have to learn a way to deal with that situation in a way that is wise, so that we come out alive on the other side. The passage that we referred to yesterday comes from Matthew chapter 12, where it says, I send you out as sheep among wolves. Therefore, walk circumspectly. Be wise as serpents and harmless as doves. Now, to walk circumspectly simply means to be aware of the circumstances and the situation around you. I said yesterday that there's a military expression that says, keep your head on the swivel, right? To pay attention to circumstances that's going on around you. And if you are paying attention, then you know that as a black person, you have an encounter with the police. Your encounter with the police department or with law enforcement has the potential to be unnecessarily deadly. And so how do we defeat the wolves? The harmless as dove part of that passage is not saying that you be a coward, that you relinquish your power or your freedom or your rights. What it is saying is that first we have to use our minds in accordance with wisdom to defeat the wolf. Our protests haven't worked. Our appeal to morality hasn't worked. Our appeal to the politics hasn't worked. Our appeal to the judicial system hasn't worked. And the definition of insanity, people, is to keep doing the same thing over and over again and expect a different result. So none of that stuff has proved to be an effective tactic and wisdom to deal with the wolf. And so now I am saying to you, we have to learn to be wise, right? And so the first thing that I want you brothers to consider in accordance with wisdom when you are in a confrontation with the police is to do the things that's necessary for you to come out on the other side. Now, I know how it feels to be pulled over by the police, and when you are pulled over by the police, to be immediately frustrated in anger and belittled by that situation. You know the only reason he pulled you over is because you're black. You know the only reason why he's asking you to get out of the car is because you're black. You know the only reason why he's giving you these bogus reasons for pulling you over in the first place is because you're black. You know all of this, right? And so your knee-jerk reaction and the anger and frustration of that knowledge is to go toe-to-toe with that police officer, tell him who what's wrong with him, read him his rights up and down, tell him which way to go, which way to, get on and get off, and what to, what he can do and what he can't do, and try to verbally browbeat that officer into submission, where the end result is for him to bow his head in defeat and admit that he was wrong and let you go with an apology. Listen, this is not going to happen. You are not living in the reality. That is not walking circumspectly. That is not being aware of the reality of the situation around you, because that is not what's going to happen. What is going to happen is you are putting yourself in a situation to potentially be arrested, go to jail, beaten, hurt, and or even killed, right? So I need you to come out on the other side of that situation alive. Yes, we need to fight against injustice. Yes, we need to say something about these kinds of racial profiling and unjust situations. But at the time of the confrontation with the police officer is not the time to do that. That is a situation you are not going to win. And you cannot stand up for rights. You cannot stand up for justice. You cannot bring light to racial profiling and discrimination and all these kinds of things if you are dead. You can't do it. And I would rather have your voice than your martyrdom. I would rather us rally around our causes together with our voices than to rally around your death, your martyrdom, in anger and frustration. Right? So I need you to be alive. So when you are confronted with the police, I want you to consider, brothers, these are some things that I need you to do. Right? Number one, do not argue with the police officer. Don't argue with him. A lot of times they are ignorant. They don't know the law. They may be racist. They may be not racist. It doesn't matter. Just don't argue with them. Give them your driver's license, your insurance, or whatever it is they ask for. First of all, before you give them anything, have your hands on the top of the car attended to where they can see them. If you're going to reach for something, let them know that you're going to get it, what you're going to get, and ask them if it's okay if you get it. I wouldn't even mind if you say to the police officer, I'm a black man. Police officers have a tendency to get nervous and shoot at black people. So I need you to not shoot at me while I'm reaching for this insurance. I mean, I don't know if you say something like that, right? Make him say, I'm not going to shoot you on camera, right? So, that's wisdom. Listen, I'm talking about wisdom here. So you keep your hands where you can see them. If you're going to reach for something and do something, don't just do it. Ask his permission to do it. And like I said, I don't even mind if you tell him you're taking these extreme steps because you're black and because you are nervous that he might be a racist, trigger-happy cop. I don't care if you say that, but do it with wisdom. I know that it's a frustrating situation, but I need you alive, right? He asks you to get out of the car, get out of the car, right? He's not going to find anything. Record him. Watch every move he makes, right? Don't argue with him. After the situation is over, there is a recourse in the court of law where then you can argue about the injustices of the situation. And now I know what you're saying. You're saying, well, we're not going to find any justice in the court of law. Well, I'm not arguing with that. I'm not arguing that the courts are any more fair and just toward black people than an law enforcement officer. But you're not going to get shot in court, right? You're not going to, the chances are you're not going to get arrested in court, right? The court is a place that whether or not you get justice in the court where you can say your piece. But if you're not going to get justice in court, if you don't believe you're going to get justice in court, you're definitely not going to get it at the time of confrontation with that police officer. And like I said, in the courtroom, you're not going to get shot in there. I need you to be alive. Do you hear me? So in the court, now I'm going to tell you, I've been pulled over by the police. I've been issued tickets. But let me tell you this too, and we're quickly running out of time for this morning segment. But let me tell you this: 9 times out of 10, this police officer doesn't know the law. Right? They don't know the laws. They are issuing citations, and they're pulling you over, and they're quoting you bogus laws and bogus things. Because they are expecting you not to know any better. They're expecting you just to pay the fines and take the punishment without any pushback whatsoever to what they're doing. The court gets their money. You get your record. The police officer makes it look like he's doing his job, and everybody wins but you. But 9 times out of 10, they don't even know what they're talking about. On the tickets, on the citations that you are issued, the officer is required to list the law that he's accusing you of violating. It's usually in a code. The states have codes, and he will put that code and then write it out in the comments line what it is that you are doing. Guys, 7, 8 times out of 10, if you look up that law, the law does not say what he's accusing you of doing. And that is something that you can argue in court. I gave an example. There was once upon a time where I was accused of parking in a handicapped space at a convenience store. And when I looked up the law that he was accusing me of, it turns out that in order for a handicapped space to be considered a handicapped space, the law says it had to be certain signage, there had to be certain markings on that space, the signage had to say certain things, it had to be so many feet off of the ground, all of these kinds of things, which wasn't the case. And I was able to go to court and argue this space wasn't properly marked as a handicapped space. The judge didn't have any choice but to agree with that situation. So that happens a lot. And we can, if we use our minds and wisdom, deal with some of these things effectively without having to lose our lives and our freedom in the process. Guys, if we could just be logical and not emotional, and I'm not saying that's an easy thing to do, but I need us to be wise. This is how we win. Our protest, our appeals to morality, our appeals to the politics, our appeals to the judicial system, none of that works. It's time for us to use our minds, to appeal to ourselves and our minds and our intellect and our unity to defeat that wolf. Listen, we are almost out of time. I want to give a shout out to my brother, William Shelton. William Shelton did an interview on the news the other day. A very intelligent, articulate brother who runs the Atlanta Black Business Network. Shout out to you, brother. Way to represent us on television. Way to articulate what goes on with the police and our confrontations with the police. He was talking about should we tell the police if we have a gun if we are confronted with the police. No, because what's going to happen is that whenever you tell somebody that you have a gun, what that automatically does is make them nervous about you. But anyway, thank you. Shout out to that brother. We're about out of time. Listen, you guys love one another. Keep one another in prayer. Lift up one another. And remind one another that we are not alone. Blessings, everybody. Love and peace in the Most High.